So, that's my story, folks. A real-life nightmare that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Stay safe out there and keep an eye on the road. You never know what's waiting just around the bend. You know, this story isn't one of those tales that people share over a beer at a bar. No, this is gut-wrenching and bone-chilling. It's a night I'll never forget when I was a kid riding in the truck with my dad. So, imagine this. It's a warm summer night, the kind where the air is thick with moisture and the stars twinkle as if they have a secret to share. My dad and I driving the truck down this lonely highway with the radio blaring some old country tunes. Life was simple, you know, just me, my dad, and the open road. But then, out of nowhere, headlights pierced the darkness, blinding us. My father pressed the brakes hard. There was a car stopped in the middle of the road as if it were waiting for us. My heart started pounding because something wasn't right. Before we could even blink, 4 people were getting out of that car, each carrying something that caused trouble. Guns, knives, baseball bats, you name it, they've got it. My father, he's a tough son of a gun, but he knows we're in big trouble. He tries to maneuver the truck around them, but they're too fast. Their car intercepts us, and before we know it, we're sliding off the road into the ditch. The impact was like a thunderclap. Glass shattered, metal groaned, and I rolled over like a rag doll. The next thing I knew, I was staring up at the night sky, feeling pain every inch of me. My father wasn't doing much better. His right hand was badly shattered, blood dripping. And me? I was bleeding, broken, but still kicking. But that's the exciting part, the part that still haunts me to this day. As I lay there, trying to make sense of it all, I noticed something strange. These people who caused the wreck didn't remain where they were. No, they got over it like their lives depended on it. Now, you'd think they'd stay, wouldn't you? I mean, they made this mess, and they need to own up to it. But no, they disappeared into the night, leaving my father and me to pick up the pieces. The ambulance came, and the police too, but it was too late. The damage was done, and all we could do was pray we'd make it out alive. But wait, the story doesn't end. So, fast forward 10 years after that nightmare on the highway. Life wasn't exactly a bed of roses. My old man lost his job, and the compensation wasn't enough to keep us afloat. Seeing him struggle, especially with that busted hand from the accident, tore me up inside. Despite his age, he still had to deal with the pain and the limitations it brought. You see, I used to work at this remote factory out in the boonies, pulling night shifts like there was no tomorrow. When the factory bus wasn't running, I'd hitch a ride with the truckers heading back to town. It was a gamble, though. Sometimes they'd stop, sometimes they wouldn't. Those nights waiting by the roadside were like a game of chance. Sometimes a trucker would take pity and give me a lift after a few minutes. Other times, I'd be stuck out there for hours, my arm aching from waving them down. Most of them just kept on rolling, too busy with their own lives to spare a thought for some kid in need. One foggy night, it felt like déjà vu. I was out and about, probably working some extra shifts to make ends meet. The air was thick with mist, and I could barely see ahead. Then, out of the mist, a car appeared, its headlights cutting through the fog like knives. My heart skipped a beat as I noticed the driver wearing a mask. Instinct kicked in, and I darted behind a nearby tree, trying to stay out of sight. From my hiding spot, I watched as the car pulled up beside a big factory truck. There were 4 guys, and one of them. I swear I'd seen him before. Same movements, same hair, though I couldn't make out his face. Without warning, they started wailing on the truck, like a pack of wolves attacking their prey. But this truck driver wasn't about to roll over and take it. He was tough as nails, and he proved it by swerving around their car and hitting the gas, leaving those goons in the dust. So, there I was, hiding behind that tree, heart pounding in my chest like a jackhammer. Those memories from years ago with my dad flashed before my eyes, and I knew in my gut these were the same people who wrecked us on that lonely highway. I didn't waste a second. grabbed my phone, fingers shaking like leaves in the wind, and dialed 911 quicker than you could blink. Told them everything I could remember, every detail burned into my brain like a brand. The cops didn't waste any time. They sprang into action, alerting every unit on the road to keep an eye out for that car with the license plate I managed to catch. I felt like I was in some kind of action movie, but this was real life, and the stakes were high. Hours passed, tension thick as molasses in the air, until finally, word came through. They'd spotted the car, just like I said, and they weren't letting it out of their sight. It was like a game of cat and mouse, except the mouse had teeth and claws. I watched from a safe distance as they dragged those punks out of the car, hands cuffed behind their backs. It was a sight for sore eyes, let me tell you. Justice served up hot and fresh, just like Mama's apple pie. After they were hauled off to the security zone headquarters, me and some of the other victims got a chance to lay eyes on them. Faces twisted with anger and fear, just like I remembered from that fateful night on the highway. Turns out, these jerks were part of a whole gang of car thieves, using stolen rides to terrorize folks like you and me. Knives, guns, you name it, they had it all up their sleeves. But now they were facing the music, and I couldn't help but feel a twinge of satisfaction. It was a long road to get here, full of twists and turns I never saw coming. But in the end, justice prevailed, and me and my dad could finally put that nightmare behind us. So, here's to keeping an eye on the road, folks. You never know what's lurking just around the bend.
Enjoying the content? Subscribe now for more.
There are many roads, especially those you don't want to take at sunset. You know, those trails that people say are haunted or crawling with all kinds of suspicious characters. Well, let me tell you about a night that happened to a man named Henry, just an ordinary guy trying to get to his grandfather's house in the outback. So, there's Henry, wandering along this desolate stretch of road. There were no other cars in sight, and the darkness weighed heavily on his shoulders. He didn't look his best, you know, just a regular guy trying to make his way through the night. And then, out of nowhere, there she was. This girl appears right in front of Henry's car, her face twisted in fear. I mean, she looked like she had just seen a ghost or something. She started banging on Henry's window, practically begging to be let in. Now Henry, he's a gentleman, so he rolls down the window and asks her what the hell is going on. And this girl, very terrified, says there's no time to waste, and they have to get out of there before it's too late. Henry thinks, what in the world? But he's also not one to leave a damsel in distress stranded on a scary road in the middle of the night. So, the door opened, and the girl practically dove into the car. Henry acquiesced, just trying to put as much distance between them and whatever it was she was evading. But let me tell you, things have gotten weirder since then. As they tear up the road, the girl starts spilling her guts about how she's being chased by something, or someone. She's too afraid to look back, but she's convinced they're following. Henry grips the steering wheel, his heart pounding in his chest, wondering what he's gotten himself into. And so they were driving down those eerie back roads, the night pressing down on them like a dense fog. The girl next to him looked like she had seen things that could turn your hair white, and Henry couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. But, you know, when you're in the thick of it, sometimes you just have to keep going and hope for the best. She kept pointing out these ways that seemed to have been forgotten by time itself. I mean, they were so deserted, they felt like they were the only souls left in the world. At every turn, Henry's gut was telling him, Henry, my friend, you may have gotten yourself into something you simply can't walk away from. But he tried to stay calm, you know. Maybe she was just in shock, or her mind was racing with everything that had frightened her out there on that lonely highway. So, he kept driving, following her directions like a lost puppy, hoping that they would eventually bump into civilization again. 2 hours passed, and those broken roads seemed to stretch on forever. The girl kept pointing, her hand trembling like a leaf in the wind. And Henry? Well, he was starting to wonder if he should call the police like he promised himself. And his heart beat so loudly he swore she heard it. That's when he noticed something strange. The girl still had her hand on her face, hiding something from him. "Well, it seems that you have lost your way. I will drive to the nearest police station, and they will certainly help you reach your home," Henry said to the girl. She replied, "No, we have arrived. My house is directly in front of you, to the right." Henry looked at the house, and it was a big shock. Terror gripped me like a vice when that girl quietly got out of my car and thanked me as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. I mean, who behaves politely after a bone-chilling ordeal like this? I headed towards the house, and let me tell you, it looked like something out of a nightmare, broken, abandoned, not a soul in sight. Then, just when I thought things couldn't get any weirder, I heard these strange noises coming from underneath my car. It was as if something was scratching and scratching, trying to get out. My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. And then darkness. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital bed, confused. It turns out that a farmer came across me while I was combing his land. Can you imagine? There I was, lying unconscious in the middle of nowhere, like a scene from a bad movie. They rushed me to the hospital, and when I finally got back, it was like waking up from the craziest dream ever. Some people believed my story and thought I had experienced really scary things on that deserted highway. Others, well, they chalked it up to me missing the marbles. But let me tell you something, people. This road, that part of the highway that led me to hell and back, it's cursed, I tell you. No one takes it anymore. Not after what happened to me. It's as if an entire town is afraid of it, like it's a no-go zone. And as for me, well, I haven't been the same since that night. Every time I close my eyes, I see that destroyed house, and I hear those terrifying sounds coming from under my car. It's like I'm stuck in a nightmare that I can't wake up from. So what do you think, people? Do you believe my story, or do you think I've finally lost my courage forever?
I was working my regular shift at a pharmaceutical company, and let me tell you, it was one of those nights where it felt like the whole world was shrouded in a thick fog, the kind of fog that makes everything seem eerie, like something out of a horror movie. Anyway, I was on my way to visit my aunt who lives in a town not too far from where I work. It was supposed to be a quick visit, just to catch up on all the jazz. When I got to the highway, I started to feel this severe headache creeping up on me, and with no restrooms in sight, I had to pull over to the side of the road when I saw it. A graveyard, sitting there as if it had been forgotten by time itself. Now, I'm not superstitious or anything like that, but I have to admit, seeing that cemetery in the dead of night gave me goosebumps. But nature was calling me, so I had no choice but to defy it. And there I saw him, a figure lying on the ground, there among the tombstones. I couldn't believe my eyes at first. I mean, who expects to find a dead body during a leak, right? But there he was, lying there, as still as the night itself. My heart began to race, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. I knew I had to check if this was real, so I reached for my flashlight and shined it on the figure. And let me tell you, what I saw still gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It was a man, well, lying lifeless, with a frozen expression on his face as if he had seen something straight out of a nightmare. I did not commit to further investigation. I got out of there faster than you can say scary. I mean, who doesn't? Seeing a dead body on the side of the road is enough to make anyone's blood run cold. I didn't waste any time. I headed straight to the nearest town and went straight to the police station. I told them everything, about the body I found in that creepy old cemetery. The cops didn't waste any time either. They took me back to the cemetery, the lights flashing and the sirens blaring. But when we got there, the body was gone. It disappeared into thin air, as if it had never existed to begin with. The police were not happy about this, let me tell you. They started giving me the third degree, asking me if I was drinking or doing drugs or something. But I swear on my aunt's precious garden gnome, I've been completely sober the whole time. They even called in a psychiatrist to evaluate me, thinking I might have imagined the whole thing. But the doctor said I was as sane as they come. There are no signs of psychosis or hallucinations or anything like that. But I know what I saw that night. I saw a dead man lying in that cemetery, clear as day. Until they find out what really happened, I will never set foot near that place again. That's for sure.